Good evening and welcome to the Utopian Baseball Universe. I'm Joey Buckholtz. We've got a really fun show for you tonight. Seattle Mariners. Quick story about this hat I'm wearing. In 1984, my favorite player, probably of all time in Major League Baseball, Gorman Thomas, who was traded the prior year to Cleveland, signed a free agent contract with Seattle. And that was the year that I became a big baseball fan. So I became a Mets fan in '84. But I also followed the Mariners very closely that summer because Gorman was there. I used to actually go, and a couple people watching tonight that played Street League with me on that street that we played on. I wrote down the entire '84 roster for the Mariners, and I would throw a tennis ball up and hit homers and keep track of how many I hit. And I made sure that Gorman was at the top of that list every year. But Gorman Thomas, Kenny Phelps, Alvin Davis, I believe, is on that team. So I have the Mariners near and dear to my heart, especially because of that '84 team. So I'm excited about this show. And the guest I'm about to bring on right now has, number one, maybe the coolest name in the Utopian Baseball Universe. I'm going to legally change this to my last name so that we can be brothers. So I want to bring him on right now. His name is Kurtis Pitcher. Kurtis, I mean,
Hey.
That's just the coolest name ever. I was a pitcher in Little League. So it's going to happen. Tomorrow I'm going to get papers notarized. I'm going to become Joey Pitcher, and we can be brothers.
Love it, man. Love it. Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, Kurtis. We've been talking now for the last 20 minutes, getting to know Kurtis. This is as knowledgeable of a fan as we're going to have on in this whole team preview series. This guy, number one, very knowledgeable. Number two, very passionate about what we're talking about tonight. So I'm very excited about this. Kurtis, let's start the show just telling the fans watching tonight how you became a fan of the Mariners and maybe share some early baseball memories for us.
Sure. Well, yeah, like as you pointed out, last name's Pitcher. So, it'd be really awkward if I wasn't a baseball fan. And I grew up just in this area. My dad grew up in Southern California, so he was a Dodgers fan. And then they moved up here to become teachers. And I just have, been here my entire life and just been obsessed with baseball. My dad named me Kurtis with a K because it would be K pitcher, like strikeout pitcher. I pitched all the way through college. I'm a Tommy John survivor. So pitching has just been in my blood my entire life. So I love it. And just baseball has just been so much a part of my life. And the Mariners, you got to be a really good fan to be a fan of them because, they haven't given us a whole lot in terms of success. But it's just every year the excitement of just baseball being back is just it's a great part of life. And, I've just been a dedicated fan. My family and I go to about 20 to 25 games a year. We have to take the ferry across the water to Seattle, but it's a really fun journey because we get to be a part of a fanhood of a bunch of other rowdy fans. And, yeah, I just love it. I'm obsessed. I have one tattoo. It's on my calf. It's a Mariners logo. So
there it is.
I got that going. And, yeah, I'm just dedicated as all get out to them. And I have lots of early memories. I remember being in the Kingdome. I remember having to bring earplugs as a little kid because it would just get so live in there. And then when Safeco came around in '99, it's just such a beautiful ballpark. And, just the views from I'm obviously pretty biased, but I just think it's one of the top parks in all the bigs. And, I just get to share my passion every year with my family and go to all the games. And I've been to a ton of the different memorable games at T-Mobile Park. They actually came out with a top 5 list of games at T-Mobile, and I actually have been to 4 of the 5. So, yeah, just constantly going to the games. And I now have an 18-month-old son at home, and I'm just super excited to take him to, his first game. I wish it could have been last year, but that's okay. I look forward to hopefully taking him this year. But lots of good memories with the Mariners. First one that pops out for sure is the fact that I sat in King's Court for Felix Hernandez's perfect game. So I got to witness a perfect game, and that's why he's my favorite player of all time. There's no denying that. I wish him the best. In Baltimore, obviously it's kind of hard to see him in that orange, but he'll always be our boy. And just all the fun players we got to watch, growing up. I was a little bit young, I was only like 5 in 95, 96 when the teams were rolling with the heart of the order, but it's so legendary here in Seattle that, you just know the roster no matter what. And so, and we just it's just a lot of fun coming up over these next couple of years. So I'm looking forward to it.
Who are some of your favorite players from history with Seattle? And this could be who you were a fan or current players.
Yeah.
Who are some of your favorites?
So, obviously, Felix is number one. And then in no particular order, just throughout my life, I've liked Griffey, obviously, but I like random players. I love David Bell. David Bell was my boy in 2001 on that 116-win squad. He was my favorite player. I also love Joey Cora because he was a second baseman. Unfortunately, I'm left-handed, so I couldn't play second base, but I still appreciate him as a player. I love Nelson Cruz. Was one of my recent favorites just because I think he was the best free agent signing the Mariners have ever had. I liked a guy named Al Martin for a while, randomly on the Mariners. He was just an outfielder that happened to be there. And then, I loved Edwin Diaz. It was a bummer we traded him, but the haul we got back for him from you guys, man, was something that I can appreciate, and I'm hoping that will carry on, and we can always appreciate him for that. But yeah, and then I love Jay Buhner out there and right with that bald head and that cannon and dropping bombs, and tons of random players that I really appreciate from them. We've had some good gamers and guys that stick out that a lot of people don't remember, but it's good.
I'm still sick to death about Kenelik trade.
Yeah.
He's I don't know if you knew this, but he's actually from here in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was the highest drafted player ever out of the state of Wisconsin. When the Mets took him, I was just so elated, thinking like this guy's going to be up in like the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And when they traded him for Diaz, it's not that I didn't like Diaz coming because at the time we were just like 1 or 2 players away, but like I've never been a big fan of Cano.
Yeah.
And I just thought like, is there anything else we could have given Seattle instead of the number 1 prospect in the organization or one of the top, 2 or 3?
Yeah.
So I actually hope that you guys keep him. And hopefully we see Jared in the Utopian Baseball Universe in the next year or 2, because I think he's going to be amazing at this level.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, man. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because it's just negativity, but all that stuff that happened with our president, Kevin Mather, and all that stuff with the negativity around like the service time and all that, and kind of Kelenic came out and said like, I didn't want to sign a deal because I want to invest in myself and all that stuff. So there's some tension, but luckily Kelenic's coming up with a bunch of these other young studs. We have the number 2 farm system in baseball. We haven't had that in over 37 years. And so we got all these young guys coming together, and I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder coming to a team that has the longest active playoff drought in all of American professional sports. We're the only team that's never been to the World Series. And then add in the fact that the Mariners' former president, was kind of throwing shade at a lot of these players. I'm hoping that they kind of collectively come together with a big chip on their shoulder and we can do some things. Obviously, they're predicting us in like the 2022, 2023 to really start making our run. But a lot of people are looking at us as a sleeper team this year, especially in an AL West division that's kind of wide open. The Astros have kind of lost some pieces, and the A's have kind of lost some pieces as well. And so it's kind of up in the air of who could snag the division. And I'm hoping the Mariners could kind of sneak in as a dark horse for a possible playoff spot. So we'll see. We shall see.
I think it's good for baseball if teams like the Mariners, the Brewers, the Rangers, get their chance to shine in a possible World Series. You had mentioned the Mariners are the only team that hasn't been to a World Series. I'm a Browns fan, and we've never been to a Super Bowl. Like I just can't get over that. Like the Super Bowl is 55 years old. Yeah. We did a lot of damage in the 40s and 50s, won a title in the 60s, but Browns have never been to a Super Bowl either, so I'm right there with you, man.
You feel it, man. Yeah, you know the pain. Oftentimes I hear the Mariners are called the Browns of baseball, so, we can relate to that. So
maybe one year the Mariners will win the World Series, the Browns will win the Super Bowl in the same couple 3 months. That'd be
I
awesome.
think people will be worried the apocalypse will happen if that happens, honestly. But we'll see, man. I'd be down for it for sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you about. I know pandemic baseball. The last couple years has been different.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on some of the changes that MLB is instituting with? Like in spring, we've got the rolled innings, and during the regular season, it's gonna be another year with the guy on second in the 10th inning. What are they doing now? The three batter minimum. Like, what are you in some of these changes?
So first and foremost, I'm a baseball purist no matter what. So I wish that the game wouldn't have to be tweaked the way it is. But obviously, we're in a new generation where we've got to attract the next upcoming youth. And I think that one of the ways they think they're going to do that is speeding up this game. But really, when you take a look at the numbers, it doesn't do that too much. I think the flair of having, things like a runner on second and extra innings is something that people can kind of get behind, and I think it's something we'll get used to. But I mean, obviously, I was a pitcher my whole life growing up, so I would not be a fan of that. Coming into the game, you got to automatically start from the stretch. You can't go from the windup. Like, there's just a whole bunch of things that can go on. But I think it's creative. I think it's something that baseball is trying to do to just get a little bit more flair. But obviously, I think I'm always going to be a purist. I wish that they would just leave the game alone. I don't have a problem with how long the game goes. I think it's one of the things that makes baseball so beautiful is that there's no time, man. It could go on forever. It's just the way the game is. There's no limit to it. So, but obviously, whatever the game's going to do, I'll just accept it and I'll get used to it just the way it is. But I would like it to just stay pure.
Well, now, so you live you're a fan, I should say, of an American League team.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the designated hitter? Should we adopt a universal DH going forward?
So again, man, I was a pitcher my whole life growing up, so I always wanted to take cuts, man. Even in college and high school, for the most part, like we would just, we wouldn't get to hit. So I was always wanted a pitcher that wanted to rake, and now I play softball, and I'm a big lefty. I'm 6'5" and left-handed, and play first base, so I drop bombs and stuff. So I always wanted to hit. But that being said, for the major leagues, I would be fully down for them to just adopt a DH in the NL. I understand from another purist point, if you're a National League fan, that's really changing the game. But we've been blessed here in Seattle to have some incredible DHs. Honestly, with Edgar, obviously Hall of Famer, the DH of the Year award is named after him. We also have had Nelson Cruz, like I mentioned before. So I've seen the impact that the DH can make in lineups, and so I think it would be cool. Plus, I don't know, man. Watching some pitchers hit is kind of really ugly sometimes, and so. But then again, it's kind of fun. I got to see Felix Hernandez close his eyes and hit a grand slam off Johan Santana at Shea Stadium back in the day. So every once in a while, it looks cool. But I would be up for the universal DH.
I've actually, in the last probably year and a half, I've softened my stance a bit. I still don't like the DH because, like you mentioned, like when I was a kid, your pitchers would normally play shortstop or center field when they weren't pitching.
Yeah.
A lot of them were the best athletes on the team, hitting third. The reason why I think pitchers can't hit is because when you draft a pitcher and you give them, $100 million, the team has now invested in that piece of your game so much that they don't want you getting injured or hurting yourself up at the plate. So I get that from a business standpoint, but this idea that pitchers can't hit is just not right.
Sure.
Jacob deGrom was drafted as a shortstop.
Yeah. Oh.
For the Mets, and like I said, growing up, watching a lot of National League Baseball, guys could handle the bat, and it's just now I think teams are just not making it a priority.
Interesting.
And when you don't make it a priority and you say, we're not going to work on this aspect of the game, the skill set is going to struggle. So just like in any other sport, if you draft a guy and say, we're not going to have you do this anymore, if you're not working on those fundamentals daily.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I lived in an American League town, so we had the DH. But in the late 90s, when the Brewers became a National League team and you'd get there for batting practice, the pitchers were in there. Working on their game, trying to hit. We actually had a guy here for a couple years, Zach Greinke.
Oh, yeah.
Who's hit 10 homers in the big leagues.
That's awesome.
He and Bob Gibson actually are the only two, if he steals a base this year, are going to be the only two pitchers in Major League history to steal 10 bases and hit 10 homers in their careers.
Oh, that's awesome. So I saw him in an interview recently, and he had talked about, since he went back to the Dodgers and he's in the National League, that it's going to be a lot harder for him to reach that now because, or no, he's back in the AL. It's going to be a lot harder for him to reach that because he won't be able to hit. He's going to have to rely on going back to National League parks in order to get the hit stuff. And so, but he's a funny guy. I saw him talk about that recently. So I think you're right. I think you're really right that, you got to hone in on those skills. And I think for the most part, when pitchers do anything related with the bat, it's just fully working on small ball, and bunting and that kind of stuff. But like you said, there's pitchers that can stroke. The ones I think of, are obviously like Mad Bum can stroke. But back in the days, like Mike Hampton, I remember being a guy that could really, really drop some bombs as a pitcher. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate what you're saying, though, that I think that more people that are pitchers hit than they think, and I think there's a lot of converted guys that, used to be, catchers that just have super good arms that weren't going to make it as catchers. And so they became pitchers and vice versa. We had a hitter by the name of James Jones up here that's really fast speedster center fielder. And then he actually converted to be a pitcher. I think he's still down at AAA somewhere, but it's cool to see guys reinvent themselves as pitchers, but still have those skills in their back pocket. So that's great to see.
Yeah, so like I'm okay if the National League ends up instituting the DH, I'll be okay with it. But yeah. I will say right here live on the show tonight, the Utopian Baseball Universe will never have the DH.
I love it.
Our pitchers are going to rake, and then guys like we're going to unveil the roster here shortly. There's going to be guys on this team that if they're not starting in a particular game because of the National League type rules that we're going to be instituting. You're going to see some of these names first off the bench to pinch hit in some key situations. So I've said it once, I've said it a million times. No DH here, but I'm with Curtis. If the National League institutes it, it makes sense to have uniform rules at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Now, before we get to the roster, let's look at some highlights for the Mariners' schedule. So we're going to look at, we're going to bring this up right now. The Mariners actually opened their season at the White Sox.
Okay. So U.S. Cellular Park. Let's get it going.
Home opener a week after that, April 2nd, hosting the Reds. So that's going to be interesting. We've got Griffey versus Griffey on opening day for the Mariners.
That'll be fun. Yeah, that's great.
Memorial Day, we've got Mariners at the Angels. So again, if you're looking for like that marquee matchup, you've got Griffey versus Trout on Memorial Day.
Oof.
Independence Day, Mariners at Philadelphia. Labor Day, Mariners hosting the A's. And then the M's are going to finish their season at the Dodgers.
Love it.
So the big question is Lou Piniella. And again, if you're watching this for the first time, I'll just have you guys know, every manager in the Utopian Baseball Universe has my phone number. So Lou Piniella called me today, and this is the lineup that he's going with against the White Sox on opening day. And Curtis is seeing this for the first time as well. Leading off and playing right field, Ichiro. One name, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. Batting second baseman, Brett Boone. Batting third, center fielder, Ken Griffey Jr. Batting fourth, shortstop, Alex Rodriguez. Batting fifth, big free agent get in January from the Negro League Hall of Fame, catcher Biz Mackey. Considered to be one of the top 2 or 3 catchers of all time in the Negro Leagues. Think about this. Your 6th hitter is a Hall of Famer. Third baseman, Edgar Martinez. So when you can trot out a Hall of Famer batting 6th, you should be doing well.
Loving it, yeah.
Richie Sexton's going to play first base and bat 7th. Kyle Lewis going to play left field and bat 8th. And then, again, another big free agent signing, Trevor Bauer, because he spent so much time deciding where he was going to pitch in the major leagues. We had a bidding war, if you will. We took the bottom 8 teams from last year, and Seattle ends up with Bauer. So Bauer is going to face Lucas Giolito on opening day in Chicago. So before we get to the bench, what are your thoughts, Kurtis, on what looks to be a very stacked lineup in Seattle?
Yeah, I love it that it's a mix of old and new, and obviously the top five, man, that's tough to beat in terms of just overall production. There's it's nice to know that we got a couple new additions, a Hall of Fame catcher, you got to love that, and then Trevor Bauer, of course, you can put him in the rotation. That's going to be real nice anytime. So I like that lineup. It's pretty potent. I got a good feeling about it going forward.
Now let's look at the other position players. And again, these players are going to get plenty of at-bats during the season, especially with no DH, pinch hitting roles, extra inning games, day game after a night game type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
We got Mike Zunino, Alvin Davis, Harold Reynolds, Kyle Seager, a favorite here in Milwaukee, Gene Segura, Jay Buhner, Raul Ibanez, and another Milwaukee favorite, recently joined the team last August, Daniel Vogelbach. So what are your thoughts here about, again, it looks to me like a very stacked bench.
Yeah, I mean, just running through the starting lineup, the other guys that I'll think of are now on the bench. So, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed everybody. A couple surprises thrown in there. Vogie, we could bring him back. The guy could mash, put a couple bombs up in the upper tank at T-Mobile Park. So, it's good to see him back in the Mariners uni, but feeling pretty good about guys coming off the bench. I think that is a pretty formidable dugout right there. So, that's good.
All right, now let's take a look at the starting rotation. Again, Trevor Bauer is going to get the start against the White Sox opening day. Then you got Felix Hernandez, Jamie Moyer, and then the Mariners are actually going to be the opponent for the Cubs the following series. So they're going to have Marco Gonzalez and Chris Bosio, and then Trevor Bauer gets the second start. And then also on this roster, we got Mike Moore and Freddie Garcia.
Yeah.
And then let's look at a bullpen that has Edwin Diaz, J.J. Putz, Kaz Sasaki, Kendall Graveman, David Ardsma, Bobby Ayala, and Arthur Rhodes. So we've got a nice mix of old school and new school here for the bullpen.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of closers in that pen, man. A lot of guys that really locked it down for us for a while. Even guys like the DA, man. He made an All-Star appearance with us, and gotta love Chris Bosio getting a little love in the rotation. First Mariner no hitter. I like a good mix of lefty righty combos. Feeling pretty good. Got a lot of flamethrowers out there in that pen too, so I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this team, there's a lot of, for my friends and family that are watching in the Milwaukee area, a lot of Brewers ties here. We got Gene Segura, Chris Bosio, Richie Sexson, Daniel Vogelbach. A lot to root for if you're a Brewers fan, the Seattle.
Sure.
So, Kurtis, we've got a good number of comments and questions for you here.
Sure.
So let's get right to it now. So earlier I said, before I popped this up on the screen, I did say that I wanted to become a pitcher because I love the last name. Now my friend Andy reminds me here that I do have an application to become the third Pfeffer brother. So Andrew says you're going to have trouble becoming the third Pfeffer brother if you become a pitcher. So that's a good point. I feel like I'm cheating on my current application, so we'll have to figure that out. Maybe a hyphenated name. Like
I was going to say, there's plenty of guys with hyphenated names. You could definitely rock both of them. I like that.
We're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So we got someone here that says Junior was the best. Yeah, I mean, one of the sweetest swings in baseball. Probably one of my top 5 just favorite players to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Andrew concurs. Griffey Jr., the most exciting player in the game for years. I mean, I don't think there was a player since I've been a fan that had more hype coming into the league than Ken Griffey Jr. I can't name one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because I was born in '91, so Griffey came up, I believe, in '89, I think was his rookie year, and so obviously I was only like 5 or 6 when the Mariners were rolling in the playoffs and Junior won the MVP. And, I think it was in 96 he won it, or 97. And then, but my whole generation of everybody that grew up in my age, everybody knows who Ken Griffey Jr. is. We all rock our hats backwards thanks to the kid. And he's just beloved here in Seattle. Obviously he went home to Cincinnati, and, that was kind of awkward for a while, but then he came home, and, it was just like he picked up right where he left off. And now anytime there's like a ceremony for somebody else, or somebody gets inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame, he always comes back. And whenever he comes back, just the ovation for him is incredible. And so I like seeing the players that are in the league give him, respect for how much he influenced their game too. And, he's just the legend. He's the kid. He's just known by Junior. So nothing but love for Griffey always.
He's amazing. And Tim with a shout out for Ichiro.
Yeah.
So this comment here, Randy Johnson was awesome. So Randy Johnson was awesome. Nobody is arguing that. Randy Johnson just happens to be on the Arizona Diamondbacks roster for the Utopian. But we'll see some interesting matchups to see. Does he get a start against the Mariners this year? We'll just have to see.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Tim says Alvin Davis. Yeah, you got to have Alvin Davis on the team.
Mr. Mariner for sure.
Chuck says tuned in late talking about top prospect Kalenic, right? Yeah, Kalenic he's going to be amazing.
Yeah, he and so our outfield's going to be loaded. We got Kalenic coming up, and then we got another guy named Julio Rodriguez coming up. That's our another young stud, and then you throw in Kyle Lewis, and we've got just an absolutely lit outfield coming up. And we got a couple other guys that are going to be competing for spots out there, but those three. That is going to be like the face of an outfield for baseball coming up. Obviously, I'm hoping for it, but I really think that is going to be the most dominant outfield coming up over the next probably 5-10 years for sure.
And Andrew's right there with you with the Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
So again, the way these rosters are going to work is that names like Julio Rodriguez, Kalenic, we're going to see them on this roster as they progress in the major leagues and have a little bit of success. So this team's only going to get better over time.
Yeah.
Chuck says all these rule changes are COVID related and won't continue in the new CBA. We'll see. I hope.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I just hope that CBA, man. I hope they can get it figured out. I know there's a lot of tension already between the union and the owners, and I just I really hope that there's not anything 1994 related coming up. Knock on wood. We don't need any of that.
You're right, and I personally, I don't feel good about just them at the table coming up, but I hope I'm wrong. I certainly don't want another lockout or strike, but they got a lot to figure out. I would.
Yeah, they do. So we'll see, man. Praying for the best in this next offseason, because I think the new ones due 2022, right? Is that the next one that's due? I think so.
It's right after the season, I believe.
Yeah, whew, man.
Tim. Former guest on the show, friend of the universe. Love the lineup.
Love it too, Tim. Love it.
2 happy Mariners moments at the expense of the Mets: Kalenic trade and grand slam by King Felix. Yeah. Just funny how life works. Griffey was everyone's favorite. Yeah, Griffey was just so fun to watch. I mean,
so smooth. Yeah.
And then, so the last comment I have here, Chuck says, no, he's not. So I don't know what Chuck is referring to. Chuck, if you're still watching, just if you could be more clear on that, because I'm not sure who you're speaking of. So obviously Chuck is disagreeing with something we said.
Yeah, it's okay.
Again, if Chuck, if you're still watching, let us know. But I just want to say, Kurtis, you have been so much fun to talk to. Not just on the show, but just getting to know you. I don't think there's anyone more enthusiastic about what we're doing here in the Utopian Baseball Universe. And I want to bring you back during the season. If the Mariners have a walk-off win.
Oh yeah.
Because I write these the night before, and I post it. If the Mariners are doing something cool, there's a good chance I'm going to call you and say, "You got 2 minutes tonight? There's going to be something cool here."
Yeah, please do, man. I will be very impressed if you're up for a West Coast 7:00 start walk-off, man. That'll be about, 1 a.m. your time. But man, if you're up for it, I'm always up for it. I'm always down to talk Mariner baseball for sure.
So Chuck did clarify here. Do you think the Mets would have traded him if they thought he would be a star? All right, so I'm not going to get on too much of a rant here, but the guy that traded him was one of the worst general managers in the history of the sport. He was an agent. Everybody else in baseball knew it was a bad trade.
Yeah.
I guarantee, Chuck, I will bet you right here on the show that this guy is going to be next level great player in this league. And he's certainly going to outdo anything that Diaz did in New York or Robinson. I mean, Robinson Cano has been suspended now for a year and a half.
Oof.
So, Chuck, I have to disagree with you, but that's what it's all about, sharing opinions. Kurtis, I can't thank you enough for being here tonight. Again, we're going to have you on again during the season.
Great.
Want to let everyone know we've got a really fun, unique show tomorrow. It's Detroit Tigers. I'm going to have 3 guests tomorrow. Brett Bamford, Matt Derby, Paul Freewald, a little bit of a panel. So if you know any of these 3 gentlemen, hit them up with a ton of questions tomorrow. 7 o'clock tomorrow, Tigers. Thursday night, I've got Eric C. Gray. He's going to read from his latest book that I'm reading right now. And Kurtis, I don't know if you read a ton of baseball books. This is one of the best baseball books I've ever read.
Great.
And Friday night, our Brave Show with Jerry Grillo. Apologies about last night. One of our guests was sick, and we're going to have her and Nate on very soon to do our Texas Rangers show. We might end up doing like a doubleheader at some point, or maybe this weekend, but that's going to happen very soon. But for Kurtis Pitcher and myself, I want to thank everyone for watching tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Go Ams. Woo!